In this video, we'll be going over the sequence and operations of the LB White 350,000 BTU heater. In the end, we'll also look at some troubleshooting techniques. With this unit plugged into 120 volts, the selector switch is then energized, and also one leg on the motor relay or contactor. The selector switch is a three-way switch. The up position starts the heater, middle position turns off the heater, and the down position is a fan-only mode. In fan-only mode, 120 volt power runs through the selector switch to power the IND terminal on the control board, while also powering the blower fan motor. When the selector switch is up in the heat position, 120 volt power will flow to the L1 terminal on the control board, while also flowing through the step-down transformer, which lowers the voltage from 120 volts to 24 volts. If the thermostat is plugged in, the heater will only attempt to fire if the thermostat is calling for heat. Make sure the thermostat's temperature is above the actual room temperature. Before the heater will attempt ignition, a safety air-proofing sail switch must verify the fan is producing enough CFM to safely light the burner. The air-proofing switch is now energized from the control board. The second safety device needs to be satisfied before an attempt at ignition. LB White heaters have two high-limit switches, one on either side of the unit. They act as a circuit breaker that pops if they sense too high of temperatures. If the temperature is appropriate to satisfy the high-limit switches, power then flows through and lights up an annunciator light. It also opens up the gas valve. At this point, the igniter will try and light the burner. Finally, after the heater starts, the flame rod is energized to monitor an appropriate burner flame and stops the spark ignition. The heater should now be producing heat and running properly. The heater will continue to produce heat until the thermostat set temperature is met or satisfied. When satisfied, the heater will shut off until room temperature drops below the thermostat setting again. In this section of the video, we will be troubleshooting the heater with a voltmeter and a manometer. Please watch our LB White setup guide video for more project troubleshooting information. Proper voltage and grounding is always a concern. First thing to check is that the project has adequate voltage. Extension cords need to be 12 gauge or thicker and be no more than 100 feet long. These heaters require a minimum of 110 running volts. The LB White 350 has a 10-point terminal strip. The terminals in red all should read 120 volts on your voltmeter. The control box has colored wires. Black wires are 120 volts, white wires are 0 volts, are neutrals, and the green wires are for the grounding. Let's check to see if we have 120 volts through the heater's power cord. Turn on your voltmeter. Set the dial to V for volts. Place a probe on the first terminal and the fifth terminal. If the power cord is operating properly, we should read approximately 120 volts. Now let's check all of our remaining 120 volt terminals. Place one voltmeter probe on the ground and check the three different positions of the selector switch, one by one. Each terminal on ground should read approximately 120 volts. Next, check the power to the thermostat by placing one probe on the sixth terminal and one probe on ground. If you forget which terminal goes to which component, take a screenshot of this image or follow the wire to the component. After you check the proper voltage along the terminal strip, you could check that you have 120 volts to the motor relay contactor and to one side of the 24 volt step-down transformer. If the transformer is functioning properly, you will have 24 volts on the opposite side of the 120 volts, and each terminal on the control board should also read 24 volts. Now let's check our safety switches. Disconnect power to the heater before you proceed. Set your voltmeter to ohms, it looks like a horseshoe, and first place your probes on each end of one of the high-limit switches. If the high-limit switch is functioning, you should get a slight reading on the voltmeter, approximately 0.2 to 0.4 ohms. If the component is faulty, your voltmeter will read 0. LB White heaters have 2 high-limit safety switches, one behind each door. Next, we will check the air-proofing sail switch. Near the front of the fan motor, you will see the 2 connections for the air-proofing sail switch. Like the high-limit switch, use your voltmeter to ohm this switch as well. Now we will check our gas pressures with a manometer. Connect your manometer to the check manifold port shown. A placard on the heater will show the correct water column pressure for both natural gas and propane. Use a flathead screwdriver to turn the gas pressure adjustment shown. If you do not have a manometer, you can set the heater by temperature. Use a temperature sensing device to check the discharge heat temperature. The discharge temperature should be approximately 150 degrees Fahrenheit above the ambient temperature. In the reading shown, the heater is set up properly if the room's ambient temperature is 53 degrees. Discharge temperature should never exceed 225 degrees Fahrenheit. If you have any questions about proper setup of an LB White 350 heater, please contact one of the divisions listed.